Welcome to my channel, everyone. I am Professor Stories, and I'll be telling you some weird and wacky stories that I found on Reddit while I starting my brand new Minecraft world. Watch me start my first Minecraft world in 5 years and enjoy the stories that I have to tell that I have found today. And before I start with these stories, if you like any of them, it helps a small channel like mine a lot if you like and subscribe. Let's get into it. I would like to also mention that since it has been a long time since I have played this game, I might be a little bit rusty. So it may take a few videos for the flow to come back. But in the meantime, enjoy the footage and the stories. So today I decided to walk 10 kilometers. Not for fitness, not for a challenge, not because I'm one of those people who wakes up at 6 a.m. and says things like movement is medicine. I just needed to get out of my head. I woke up already tired, which is always a great sign. You know those days where nothing is technically wrong, but everything feels heavy? Like you're carrying a backpack you don't remember putting on. That was today. I almost didn't go. I stood there staring at my shoes for a solid 5 minutes, convincing myself that walking 10 kilometers was dramatic. Like, who am I trying to prove something to? No one asked me to do this. There's no medal. There's no audience. No one is going to clap when I get home. But that's kind of why I went. So the first couple kilometers were honestly fine. Almost suspiciously fine. Music on, brain quiet, legs working on autopilot. I had that brief delusional thought of, oh wow, maybe I've fixed my life. That lasted about 10 minutes. Around kilometer 3, the thoughts started creeping back in. The usual stuff. Things I said years ago that still randomly haunt me. Conversations that never happened but somehow still feel unfinished. That weird fear that everyone else got a manual for life and I missed the email. I noticed how uncomfortable silence actually is when you don't have anywhere to be. When you walk that long, you can't really escape yourself. You can scroll or distract yourself for a bit, sure, but eventually your brain's like, all right, enough. We're talking now. And suddenly you're thinking about where you thought you'd be by this age and how different that looks from where you actually are. By kilometer 5, I was bargaining with myself. Okay, maybe 10 kilometers was a suggestion. Maybe 7 is spiritually the same thing. My feet hurt, my back hurt. I started noticing everyone else, people sitting in cafes, couples walking dogs, someone jogging past me who looked way too comfortable. And that familiar comparison spiral kicked in. Why does everyone look like they're moving forward while I feel stuck walking in circles? But here's the weird part. Somewhere around kilometer 7, something shifted. Not in a dramatic movie montage way. No epiphany, no sudden happiness. Just acceptance, I guess. I realized I didn't need to solve my entire life on this walk. I just needed to keep putting one foot in front of the other, which sounds obvious, almost annoying, but it hit harder than I expected. Walking 10 kilometers doesn't fix anything. It doesn't make your problems disappear. You still go home to the same thoughts, the same worries, the same unanswered questions. But it does prove something really small and really important. That even when you don't feel motivated, even when your brain is loud and your body is tired, you can still move forward, slowly, uncomfortably, complaining the whole time if you need to. By the time I got home, I was exhausted, not in a proud way, just done. I took my shoes off and sat there longer than necessary, staring at nothing. And honestly, I didn't feel happier, but I felt lighter. Like I'd set something down along the way without realizing it. Anyways, that was my 10-kilometer walk. I don't know if I'll do it again tomorrow, probably not. But today it was enough. Not a bad story. I myself do like a walk, so I found this one interesting. But if you're into cycling, you might like the next story a bit better. Let's get into it. So, today I decided to ride my bike to work. Now, this sounds like a healthy, responsible decision. Like something someone who has their life together would do. The kind of person who meal preps on Sundays and owns matching socks. I am not that person. This decision happened because I looked at my car, looked at the fuel gauge, and thought, yeah, we're going to pretend bicycles are my personality now. The first 2 minutes were incredible. The weather was perfect, the air felt fresh, and I had that cinematic main character feeling. And I'm riding down the street thinking, wow, this is it. This is the new me. Cyclist era. I even sat up straighter for no reason. Like posture alone was going to change my entire life trajectory. Then I hit the first hill. Nobody talks about how aggressive hills actually are. They just exist there, silently judging you. I started pedaling harder, trying to act casual, because a guy walking his dog was watching. You can't look weak in front of a man holding a small dog. That's humiliating. Halfway up, my legs were already negotiating with my brain. Listen, we didn't agree to this. We thought this was a flat route. I kept pedaling, though, because turning around after 300 meters would have been emotionally devastating. Around the 10-minute mark, I realized something. When you drive to work, you don't really notice how far work actually is. In a car, everything feels 5 minutes away. On a bicycle, suddenly you're discovering new regions of the planet. I'm pretty sure I crossed at least 2 climates on the way. Then came the wind. I don't understand how wind works, but it is always against you, always. You could be riding in a circle and somehow it's still hitting your face the entire time. At one point I was pedaling so hard just to move forward slowly that I started questioning whether the earth itself was moving backward. And the worst part is when another cyclist passes you, effortlessly. No struggle, no heavy breathing, just gliding by like they were born with a bicycle attached to them. One guy even gave me a polite little nod as he passed, which somehow felt more disrespectful than if he had laughed. About halfway to work, I started sweating in places I didn't know could sweat. That's when the realization hit me. I still have to sit in an office after this. Nobody warns you about the transition from athletic struggle to professional environment. There's no cool down period. You just show up slightly overheated, trying to act normal while your legs are still shaking. The last stretch was mostly downhill, which should have been relaxing, but instead I spent the entire time lightly squeezing the brakes like I didn't fully trust gravity with my future. When I finally got to work, I parked the bike, stood there for a second, and just stared at the building like I had completed some heroic journey. In reality, it was like a 20-minute ride, but emotionally, that was an expedition. And here's the funny part. I actually felt pretty good afterward. Not in a my life is completely changed kind of way, but in a small, quiet way. Like I had accidentally done something responsible without planning to. Will I ride my bike to work every day now? Let's not get carried away. But I will say this. There's something kind of satisfying about knowing that before most people even finish their first coffee, you already fought a hill, lost to the wind, and survived public sweating, and still made it to work on time. What a funny story. Let us know in the comments what you guys are thinking about these and if you have any feedback. The next story is a big drive from the German city of Munich to the lovely French city, Paris. A while back, I decided it would be a great idea to drive from Munich to Paris. On paper, it sounds romantic. European road trip, scenic highways, maybe some reflective life thoughts somewhere along the way, the kind of trip you imagine happening in a movie where the main character stares thoughtfully out the window while soft indie music plays. In reality, it started at 6 a.m. with me trying to figure out why the GPS insisted the fastest route included approximately 47 different highway merges. The first hour driving through Germany was smooth. The roads were perfect, traffic was light, and I had that early morning optimism where you think, yeah, this is going to be easy. I might even arrive early. That was my first mistake, believing in arriving early. About 2 hours in, I made the classic road trip error. I stopped for snacks. Not a normal amount of snacks. I bought snacks like someone who had just discovered that shops might never exist again. Chips, chocolate, 2 drinks for variety, and something labeled energy pastry, which I'm still not sure was food. Then came the long highway stretch where everything starts to feel the same. Same road, same cars, same scenery. You start having those weird road trip thoughts like, have I been in this lane for 40 minutes? Should I change lanes just to feel something? At some point near the border, traffic slowed down for absolutely no visible reason. No accident, no construction, nothing. Just a mysterious collective decision from hundreds of drivers to suddenly go 40 kilometers per hour. That's one of those universal driving experiences. Nobody knows why it happens, but everyone participates. Crossing into France felt like a psychological milestone. I hadn't actually done anything different, but suddenly I felt like I had accomplished something major. Like I personally moved the car across international border through sheer determination. I stopped briefly near Strasbourg, stretched my legs, and realized something. Long drives make you feel both extremely tired and weirdly proud at the same time. You're exhausted, but also thinking, yes, I have conquered distance. The final stretch toward Paris was the classic this should only take another hour phase that somehow lasts 2.5 hours. Traffic thickened, the number of exits doubled and every lane change started to feel like a small strategic military operation. And then finally, after what felt like an entire lifetime of highway signs, I saw the skyline in the distance. That moment when you know you're almost there is incredible, until the city traffic begins and immediately humbles you again. When I parked the car, I just sat there for a second in silence. Not dramatic silence, more like the quiet satisfaction of someone who just completed a very long, very seated achievement. Was the drive life-changing? Not really. Did I dramatically grow as a person? Probably not. But there is something oddly satisfying about realizing that a place that once felt far away is now just somewhere you drove to in a day, powered mostly by caffeine, snacks you didn't need, and the stubborn refusal to miss another exit. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, it helps a small channel like mine if you like, and subscribe. We will hopefully see you in the next one.